Just outside Tick by NC, down a lonely stretch of eastern North Carolina farmland, there's a place most people drive past without even realizing what's buried beneath the soil. No fences, no warnings, no sirens, no giant military checkpoint, just field, tobacco rows, corn, black water ditches, and silence. But according to local legend, on certain cold nights, small lights move through those fields after dark. Not headlights, not flashlights, something else. Something people say they're swamp gas, some say they're reflections from ancient highways. Some locals believe those are lights that are connected to one of the most terrifying military accidents in American history. A moment when the United States came one switch away from detonating a thermonuclear weapon in North Carolina. It was January 1961. The Cold War was in full swing. America and the Soviet Union were locked in a nuclear standoff where both sides believed the other might launch an attack at any moment. And because of that fear, the United States kept nuclear bombers in the air around the clock, always flying, always armed, always ready. Those bombers were B 52 Stratofortresses stationed at Seymour Johnson Air Force Base near Goldsboro, North Carolina. On board, two Mark 39 thermonuclear bombs, each one carrying roughly 3.8 megatons of destructive power. For comparison, the Hiroshima bomb was about 15 kilotons. Those weapons were 250 times stronger. And on a cold January night, that B 52 started falling apart in the sky above eastern North Carolina. After mid-air refueling went wrong, the aircraft developed a catastrophic fuel leak. Thousands of pounds of fuel dispersed in minutes. Ground control ordered the plane back towards Seymour Johnson Base immediately, but the aircraft never made it. As the bomber descended over rural farmland near Faro, North Carolina, the structure of the aircraft failed. The plane literally began tearing itself apart midair. Crew members bailed out in the darkness. Some survived, some did not. But when witnesses on the ground saw something they would never forget, two massive flashes of red erupting across the winter sky, the B 52 had broken apart and the nuclear weapons had separated from the aircraft. Now, that's the part that still makes military historians uncomfortable. One of the bombs deployed almost exactly the way it was designed to during an actual nuclear attack. Its parachute opened, its arming sequence activated, safety systems engaged one after another. And according to later investigations, 7 of the bomb's 8 safety mechanisms activated successfully. 7. Only one switch prevented detonation. The one low voltage switch controlled by the crew, and that's it. One tiny little safeguard standing between eastern North Carolina and a nuclear explosion powerful enough to permanently change this state forever. The second bomb did not properly deploy. It slammed into muddy farmland at high speed and buried itself deep underground. Recovery crews spent weeks trying to excavate it, but eastern North Carolina is swampy. Water filled the crater instantly. Eventually, the government gave up. Parts of the bomb are still buried there today. And that's where the folklore begins, because over the years, people living in Faro have reported strange lights moving through the fields at dark, small glowing orbs, sometimes white, sometimes bluish, and sometimes orange, floating just above the ground, moving slowly across the farmland near the crash site. You can see the crash site from the public highway. Now, scientifically, there are explanations. Swamp gas can create glowing effects. Atmospheric plasma is real. Humidity and temperature inversions can distort distant headlights. Human memory also changes over time, especially when tied to traumatic historical events. In honesty, that's probably the explanation. But folklore doesn't survive for 60 years without a reason. Some locals believe the lights were connected to the airmen who died that night. Others believe the ground itself was somehow changed by the crash. And that's where the older locals whisper quietly that the lights aren't ghosts at all. They're warnings. A reminder that deep between those peaceful Carolina fields, part of a thermonuclear weapon still sleeps in the mud. What makes this story so powerful isn't just a single paranormal angle. It's the fact that the terrifying part is completely real. This actually happened. A nuclear bomber crashed over North Carolina. A hydrogen bomb nearly detonated, and the remnants of another weapon remain buried in the earth to this day. It sounds like fiction, but it's not. And maybe that's why the Faro light legend survives, because folklore often grows around places where people sense something emotionally unfinished. A battlefield, a shipwreck, an abandoned bridge, or fields where the world almost changed forever. The Cold War never fully left North Carolina. Officially, it ended decades ago, but places like Faro remind people of something important. For years, human civilization existed only one mistake from catastrophe, one switch, one misunderstanding, one malfunction. And in 1961, Eastern North Carolina came closer to nuclear disaster than most Americans realize. And maybe that's why people still talk about strange lights moving through those fields after dark, because deep down, human beings know when a place carries history. And even if they can't explain why, maybe the Faro lights are nothing more than swamp gas drifting above Carolina farmland. Maybe they're reflections of fog. Maybe they're local legends growing larger every generation. That's probably the logical explanation. But I'll tell you this, if you've ever found yourself driving down those back roads at night, I have. I grew up in this area, past quiet fields where the hydrogen bombs still rest beneath the soil. You'll notice lights moving out there in the darkness, and you might understand why some stories refuse to die. Hey guys, thank y'all joining me tonight with Campfire Stories. I'm Sasquatch here in Tick Bite Swamp, and I've told you a good story. It's partially true, partially speculation. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, make sure to like, follow, subscribe, and share. The best support you can give this channel is simple. Click a like, click a share. Share these stories with somebody who still appreciates old time storytelling. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here.